their previous conversation.
I'm at 6 o'clock. All right, we call this meeting to order. So I have nobody online this month. Okay. And anyway, call the meeting to order. We have informed Alec. I spoke to him. He missed the last few meetings. He will be joining us hopefully after baseball practice ends. So discussion items. We've got several discussion items. We want to talk about splash pads, multifunction court RFP, town hall renovation, geothermal heating quotes, and other projects. So with that, I'd like to give an update as to where we are with the Lakeside splash pad proposal. As many of you here, the electronic communication, we went to the Crow board a week ago last Wednesday, or at the meeting earlier this month. We had a very good discussion on the splash pads. We took them through a presentation that Jacob has put together, along with input from me and others. And it was very well received by the Crow board. And we will be going to the board tomorrow night to recommend that Splash Pad USA be awarded the project, and we'll be asking for the final approval. At the same time, our director, vice president of Splash Pad USA has flown in from Salt Lake City, and he will be joining us. I spoke to him. He landed at the airport a while ago, so he'll be here to take a tour of the site tomorrow afternoon. And so he'll be here. The presentation basically, I haven't seen it, and it's kind of laid out side by side technical comparisons of the final two companies. We started with sending out the bids back in last year to 10 companies that were down selected, 4 proposals received, and narrowed it down to 2 finalists. Both of them submitted renderings and budgets that were and bids that were good. Splash pads were just a little bit better in terms of the number of features. Thank you very much. Still jet lagged. Jet lagged. Number of features, a lot more features when you look at side by side comparison. So 42 ground sprays versus 15 ground sprays, and it just was a tighter proposal. 4 bucket tipping bucket versus 3. Just kind of go through the thing. Better warranties, etc. So we're excited. Step 1 was completed. Now step 2 will be tomorrow night. Step 3 will then be tightening up what the contract looks like and go into contract within the next hopefully 20 to 30 days. And then most importantly is from that time till this summer, is working very closely to manage the project with Splash Pad to ensure that it gets done not only on budget, but with as proposed, right? And we know historically these projects that have been done, whether or not it's playgrounds, et cetera, tend to get easily more complicated and behind schedule and an over cost. So manage it tightly because this is, as you all know, the first project of many that are the result of our strategic plan that we proposed last August.
Joe,
Yes,
as you go through that contract, and you,
Yeah.
finance committee's gonna have to know when you expect payments to be done.
yes,
Because again, we're investing in T-bills and we have to know when the money's gonna go.
yes,
So we've already held off the first T-bill that was coming due based upon the splash pad and the initial deposits and things like that. So
yeah, no, that's, and obviously, we like to pay as much as we can,
as late as
as late as we can. To be honest.
On that note, one
Yes.
thing Lauren informed me today is that they recently, like yesterday or
Like Friday.
Friday. have asked for a liquidated damages clause against us, $1,700 a day penalty if we delay the project back. So that's a conversation. If you're seeing him tomorrow, maybe that's a conversation you can get rid of before that comes to the board, because that won't fly.
But if we,
That's pretty smart.
But you've never heard of that, right? 'Cause that's,
oh, yeah, I mean, but it's,
No, I get it.
sure,
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, they're going to bring in their employees.
Yeah.
Okay, from out of town and be putting them up here in hotels, just paying for that. So,
I get it,
oh, I get it, we're gonna do
but
that.
we're not gonna do it.
Not gonna do that because, for obvious reasons. And it gets real tricky is why did it get delayed? Well, rain today. Well, that's not, so of course, that's not my fault, but it gets into, So-
Definition has to be super clear.
yes.
What happens the other way though? They. don't-
They have a $500 a day penalty of,
I think it's the percentage language.
oh, maybe it's percentage.
So
Anyway, you.
all those terms are good.
Yeah.
That should-
Half a percent
Per day.
or 0.5% of the total agreement price per day. That's our standard liquidated damages clause. But they do have a proposed, a good proposed payment schedule.
So what they want paid when
Yeah.
they're obviously gonna want money down front.
As annoying as this is, this does tell us that this is a contractor that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, so they want
Yes.
the engineered plan set is a one-time payment, and then after that is a remaining $514,000, 20% of which they want up front, then 25% after excavation, compaction, and so on. So they are graduating it.
What's the total, when is the final,
Upon completion,
and how much is that?
51,
Oh, 10%.
yeah.
So I'd recommend you don't take it on completion, upon acceptance, plus 10 days or something.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. Do they have a contingency? Built in anywhere?
There, any additions or upgrades will be invoiced out of the see, but they would have to do a change order for those.
Okay, we will work.
One of the sides, whether they have a contingency or we do, should show something in our funds.
Oh, yeah, we would like them to give estimated dates on when these items are.
Well, that, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, without detail.
Yeah. They need to give you a schedule that corresponds to that, so let's schedule that. Anyway.
They have an additional 10.5 for the drawing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was part of the
That's how-
524.
Okay.
That was.
You know,
It's just, it's based on their percentage schedule, it had to be pulled out so you could see the true percentage.
They want to do it, in case we wanted to do, most of their clients do their own engineering plans, because it's cities and towns and they have their own engineers.
Okay.
So they said, you want us to do it. Okay, so anyway, we'll go through and have these negotiations and discussions. But, this is exciting because we're very close to getting approval, number one, for the first project in many years. So that's exciting. And we have a vendor who, we're we're satisfied with. Now we're just gotta go get the contract, get the approval, contract, and then manage it. They seem to be very qualified.
I'll add that, I'm not gonna speak for individual board members, but the present, if someone was on the fence or not as much in support, the presentation and the thoroughness of the information from this group definitely tipped that scale. Because there was no questions, everything was answered.
Yeah, correct. There were two board members who, at least from my perception, is just at the beginning, you know, before it started, I started asking some questions and, you know, and by the end, they were in better place. So, and that's good to have that sort of discussion.
I think that in tandem with Jim's conversation about funding the topic before.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Right. Yeah. All right. So that's where we are with the splash pads. If we, just as a reminder, behind, pull it up. I mean, our final master plan that we did. Just as a reminder, we had in phase one, which we call 2025 to 2027. We had 3+1 projects. We had the splash pad, which we're making good progress on. We had the multi-function courts, parks enhancements, and the town hall renovation. Okay, and those were the phase one was everything but the town hall renovation, and we put the town hall reservation kind of as a off to the side as something we're doing, you know, as opposed to let's talk about these other items. So, so we're well on our way, making significant progress, I believe, in you know, the first of the two projects being town hall and splash pad. So that brings us to the next topic on the agenda, which is the multifunction court RFP. I saw for the first time, could have been done beforehand, but I saw the first draft, I believe yesterday or the day before. I didn't read it this morning. So I don't know if Lauren or Mark, you want to, anybody else give some comments or thoughts as to what the schedule says in here, Lauren, that I don't think I had a chance to, me personally, think is appropriate. It could be, is the timeline, but for those who are aware of the timeline.
If it's highlighted in yellow, it means it's not a real date. It's something that needs to be.
Okay.
I didn't even look at it.
Okay.
Those are the old dates from a.
I got it. So, but the, oh yeah, well, good, yeah, because they're, well, they're 24 days. So,
Yeah, I didn't touch that.
so we'll come up with the schedule, but first things first is we need to, you know, and talk about the RP and market it.
Yeah, one, I'm calling it a multi-purpose court, so I changed name,
Okay,
just because I did. So that's more what it is to me, instead of something that's got a purpose, but that's me. Messing with the language. A lot of the first draft was really just referring to civil work, and then the last part of the original draft was reading as if it was talking to a contractor, so trying to bring it back to clarifying what the scope is, and then pulling the language back towards definitely being a design firm overseeing the whole process of engineers, including civil, landscape, irrigation, but then the engineers and then the architect coordinating what the pavilions are doing and the entire body of the work together. And then clarifying in the scope that what does need to go out, since there's retention on the site, is a civil package early that they definitely need to be aware of, which civil engineers are used to. That would go out to get the retention and approvals done for that in advance of any other building permits. The water management entities are what holds up every project on earth. That process needs to be done. Any of the other permits, but that's typical to have the civil engineering drawings put out there ahead of time. So it's describing in there in scope that there is retention already on the site. Obviously, it's one of its own needs to be designed and get out there. That civil engineering is a little bit separate than people that specialize in court design. So it's probably a set of consultants dealing with it, civil, and then people that specifically design these courts. Probably are design build, but you still need everything else ready with it. But it's putting together a design team that will oversee the entire process and coordinate everybody. So. And then they have a whole bunch of language that's the whole set of last paragraphs of taking care of insurance and a bunch of other things, selection, various aspects, that I just cleaned up the language a little bit, because it would refer to vendors versus proposers versus contractors. So I'm just trying to get the language the same throughout. Like most things, I do feel like, when I didn't have a chance to review or talk with Gordon, Jacob is, exactly what we do for an actual contract with, for these things, if there is an AIA contract that's executed with the group or not. I don't remember what we have.
So we-
851.
We have a services agreement that was recently updated in tail end of 23, I think, by COA Council. I'll shoot that over to you and
Yeah.
you can see.
Take a look at
It's
it.
because that's what was executed with Click on the town hall.
Yeah, I'd just like to see what that is, read it, make sure we protect both sides way to go. So whatever that contract is what the language should go with it. It's fine. So let's call it multifunction there, but still call it multi-purpose. It's just switching out words. But anyway, the scope's clarified. It's asking for what we need for packages at what point it'll be estimated. Also, talks about some other things that would be needed, which is soil boring, surveys, those type of things as well. The cost estimate to have alternates to include those or not. The is in boy.
So that doesn't need groundwork, like, understood.
Everything's gonna need to be filled, but at least it's a more defined space. It has been worked on previously when they built the retention wall in the back of it that takes care of the dog park. So it's been previously graded, but it's still something that will need to come up.
Yeah, I just remember D had a lot of,
D was, it's never been that thing.
I think B, and this is just a guess, I think B would need a little bit less fill because you do have,
Yeah, it's
well,
not-
one, a lot of buildup of people just dumping up there, and
Right.
two, you have some leftover from the dog park build that was just pushed to that side.
That's what the warrants are for, to find out what is there. Yeah. An example of it. My recommendation, as I said, in my emails, to just keep them frank and just have them keep going with it and sign. So we
They
can
did the
suggest
Lot
that.
B one.
Huh?
They did the Lot B.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, they also looked to be back in the day. So when we give instructions to the proposers, it should be an architecture design firm that can usually tell them, just go ahead and use those guys for civil. They can choose everybody else. Once this gets further into design, as I said, there's probably elements of it that could be design build, such as courts themselves. Just everything else needs to be prepared. And pavilions are something that could be done by some of the people that create some of the aluminum shade structures, things like that. So there's different ways to do this. But having a design firm coordinate all of it, make sure everything's fine, and oversee it. It's important.
what's the timeline?
Whatever we can do.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I just got it took long enough to try to figure out how to edit this thing. So the date for really is obviously getting it finished up with discussion. What needs to be in here versus not, and then, see how fast we can get it approved by you guys to go ahead and issue it.
So is the expectation though that we wouldn't really be spending a lot of money until next year?
Correct, it's really design work. for the next 3 or 4 months.
That was my concern.
Yeah.
It's gotta be substantially complete before announcing, consider more things.
Yeah, that's fine. The idea is to get the design work done, I would say.
Yeah.
It won't take months to see we go with things.
Yeah.
When would you have funds available? I guess would be the question.
Well, in my projection, I had the 1.2 million in next year because we've got putting the 3.5 million for 851.
Sure.
We got the splash pads. They've got their bathroom project going.
And that's it, let's stop.
Yeah.
Now, there's still some sunshade structures that are still in need and 12.
I think what we haven't done, and Marco, maybe you with the Parks and Rec Committee, and then come back to all of us. I know when we did our master plan, we said that there are multi-purpose, multi-function courts, right? And there's 8 of them. But the reality is, first of all, what we say here doesn't make sense, literally doesn't make sense, because it says, and I think I wrote it, so I take the blame. It says 4 pickleball courts, 1 to 2 basketball courts, and 1 to 2 flag. Well, you can't, it doesn't work, because it doesn't add 8. If you pick 1 basketball court and do 2 flag,
They're all on top of each other.
well, okay,
So I guess I can explain that better on there.
okay, but let's have that discussion. We said they're all on top of each other. So in other words, each court, okay, so you said they're on top of each other, but if there's 4 courts in pickleball, you're not gonna put basketball rim up in pickleball. Are you?
No, so this picture kind of describes it. You're not getting a basketball court, you're getting,
Okay, but well, okay, but are you putting up
but that's in between courts.
okay, what are you putting up? Between the pickleball courts, you're gonna put up the low fences so the balls don't go flying over,
Yes,
okay? But between the other 4, are they gonna be pure multi-purpose, multi-striped? We don't have to decide that.
No.
If I say, somebody's just gotta go look at it and say, okay, there will be 4, that will be, they could change over time, but those 4 initially will be pure pickleball courts. And of the remaining 4, they'll look like this picture here, which is you can play baseball, you can play in one of them.
something. That's what the designers are for, to do this all day long.
Right.
Tell us exactly what does work.
Okay, but we need to say, okay, because I gotta keep going back to the basketball. And day 1, how many basketball did you play? 1, 2, they're multi-purpose courts, but
So it will never be a full basketball court. So what that is showing is just the, well, one side of it.
That's fine.
And one goal.
how many, a full court, it's a half court.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's day 1, when you don't have a big building, how many hoops?
Usually you have 1.
Yes, but you're putting up no, I'm so sorry.
But
You got 4 courts, you put 4 going up, 2 going up, because you can paint them after a year and say, well, we need more. But then you've got to declare something for
So
something.
we, which all these have driveways.
Yeah.
They're in. So that's what I want to do.
So I had written down the same thing.
Okay.
It's either gotta be 1 or 2. Or it can't be.
I'm going to record it for to design them to work with us to determine the. I'm not sure we can define it. The people that do this all day are, the whole point of the design process is to work with us, talk about it and show us options. That's what's needed. I don't think it's something that you tell them. We really don't know necessarily what fits.
Okay, that's different though.
Yeah.
They're gonna tell us what fit. But Mark and 17 other people can come back and say, okay, but we think based upon initial demand, there should be 5 pickleball courts, 2 basketball courts, 3, 5 plus 3. Okay,
Indicates pickleball courts and 4 another topic about multiple sports, you just change the lines, the way they paint the
But they want the lines for
volleyball.
What will they be painted for? No, that's part of the.
okay, but artists study it, and you know what, you know, you could design it any way you want, you could tell them you could do. But the demand would say it would be, you know, 2 basketball courts, and we want them in the ground, not like my backyard.
So then maybe once we get to what are the, from in the design process, we kick to rec committee and they.
Design process. The RFP does not need to spell out.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
But he needs to keep looking at you.
Yeah, and the design process, beyond that, somebody has to decide what we want.
Okay, that's correct. But the 2 activities that
Yeah.
by the state, somebody will be thinking about, because I don't think anybody right now is thinking about anything other than the work you're doing. What do we think from a demand perspective? And if you say it's gonna be 4 dedicated pickleballs and 4, so we can do that, 4, whatever that day is, 4 in the. Okay, but they want to pay something.
It's very similar to what they're doing all over the place with tennis courts and putting in
Yeah.
pickleball.
Yeah,
So
I think that's important, though, that they do have multiple lines drawn. If you draw 4 that are just for pickleball, then nothing will ever go there otherwise, and nobody will ever let you without a big revolt. But if there's a basketball court drawn and a pickleball court, it could go either way, multi-purpose. What big multi-purpose.
Yeah. And I think that's probably going to grow, because as we all know, the only time people play pickleball is the evening. So if you're middle of the day, there's it's not necessarily very kids get to easily, is anybody can be doing anything else there. Place for kids to go. Potentially anyway.
I assume there would be people who'd be able to check it out, so you can check it out and use it for whatever sport you're playing at the time, but.
Sure.
And
So
then,
we can add to the rec committee for discussion to lead us to the.
Yeah, and I would say for pickleball, stuff that has been there since pickleball issue
there was-
way back when. The fourth court, average that shows up in any community type situation, that seems to be about the average number. 6 is for we can't be too many, of course. Pickleball people argue with you about that, but we certainly don't need 8 of them for the community with 5. Most of the larger communities that we looked at during the whole last meeting.
Draw the mark.
you down the bars.
Yeah.
And that's like, see, people with.
Exactly.
Right, you
You
could
go on the bars over there, but
where you put the net and.
Yeah.
the way they suggested in the beginning was exactly like that. With like for pickleball, the right side, more dedicated pickleball, and the other side, we also can have other 4 pickleball courts, but you can have also volleyball, futsal, basketball, streetball, or a mini basketball field for the youth players.
Right.
It's just a matter of like,
and you can. If you get a basketball tournament, you could use all the.
Well, you,
if you have it in
yeah, you would never do that.
Yes,
Yeah, basketball courts are actually much.
you could, they're not.
it'll be like a tenant house, we can, whatever you want.
Yeah. The only thing.
I'm gonna do it that way, but I think that's where we need to do it. But each court is flexible, but the initial view is, you know. That we think based upon demand, or.
But like Derek said, if you make strictly pickleball, it's not gonna change.
But if you draw all the lines everywhere, and you just leave the nets up most of the time for the pickleball, then those are pickleball. But if you ever need to take those nets out, the basketball court,
Right,
because it's already marked.
Uh,
yeah, there's ways to do it.
So-
That's part of it.
It's like the creature of habit thing, right? People are gonna do.
The other thing that I didn't see in here, but again, on my phone plan, is, fencing. So is this gonna be fenced
Yeah, 100%.
and badge reader?
Yeah, they said that
Okay, it is. Okay, good. So,
security access, I did say fencing.
right. So, in another meeting, in another conference. And what you do is, like we would do with the pickleball club here, is you want to play pickleball, it's $100 a year perhaps. You get yourself a little armband and play pickleball, that goes to the main. Something like that, those are all ideas, we can go.
Like the shade too that was drawn into the rendering as well.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah, the pavilions need to be built, period. And that's what's gonna make it something to use for a while.
Yeah.
And you know, but if you're waiting to play basketball, you're waiting to play pickleball, you're waiting to play, you've got to see the shit.
We have great plans, we have everything, you can take new tournaments for the
Yeah.
Right, training cancer.
real tournament. Not just.
Okay, next, town hall update, Mark.
It's going, Lauren, do you by any chance have the drawings? Did they break it apart to the two packages?
Not yet, we're still waiting on that, so I don't really wanna,
I don't want to show that. to
Yeah.
you. Where we're, it's moving along very nicely, actually. We have a very nice plan developed, as we've described before, of an open office concept, the community engagement piece where the business is taken care of the actual room that's off the entry. They can come into that has a little bit of a gift shop area, built into a little bit of seating with some high tops for people to fill out forms that they might need to do if they get there. So that's their countertop area for where the staff would be when people do come in to interact. So we do have that laid out in front of it, then an open office space, lounge space, break area, smaller conference room that still holds a very good number of people. That's all on the side of the building where the offices are now. The existing bathrooms stay where they are. The rest of the infrastructure kind of does. The center hall, as we talked about, is we're gaining some space for the meeting rooms by taking that inset between where the hall is and where the doors are now to the meeting spaces. So claiming that
Are we getting rid of the closets, those useless closets?
we're making bigger, yes, we're making huge storage room at the end of it.
Correct.
So what we have is two large rooms with a divider in between. So one of them is meant to be 4 fold, but still using a foldable partition that is of a much better quality than what's there now. We figured out during this process that what we were suggesting is actually what was designed back then, but not put in, but they value engineered it a little bit. So stop value engineering things, people. I have a good story for that on the civil for the building and how we got here. So 2 large rooms, those closets have been removed. We cleaned up how the entries work to it. So there's kind of 2 per. And then there is 1 large storage room at the end of the space, but right now there's probably 3 in a row there. That is where everything can actually be stored. So large enough to hide absolutely everything. So the meeting rooms are bigger, adequate storage space for those spaces. The piece we still need to work on is the technology aspect, I would say, for what the boardroom does have. Then in the back still is a space for studio space. It's still that same large room, but art floor in there. Then set up more for the athletic type things with mirrors, more like a studio space. And it also still has storage there. Some of the same components that are actually there now, just cleaning it up some. The main hall, sort of like in a lot of our spaces, there's issues with acoustics. Depending on what flooring we put down, there's actually intentions when you look at the photographs, sort of like these upper areas where we could put in sound absorbing panels like these lower tan colored ones. There's also a possibility in that space that's extremely tall, but essentially look like it's hanging down that also absorbs sound, make it better. The interior designer, gone through it with person yet in detail. We're going to do that this week. But obviously we're going to look at changing colors in there to update it all, make it look better. So that will occur, and then talk through the finishes and the main hall and the other areas. But they have created a nice, simple palette, things to really make it look nice.
So what's the timeline to go out to bid?
They are wrapping up their design development phase, so they still need to go ahead and do the construction documents. So what they've been doing is catching up all the engineers. A part of our last discussion was about the civil engineering, which I thought was entertaining because so the whole problem around the building is drainage away from the building. And there's a lot of base wall. Guess what they value engineered out way back when? The drain lines that were along the perimeter of the building, they're even squiggled out on the base drawings that the civil engineer has. Don't value engineer things, folks, unless you fully understand it. So putting back in correct drainage, lowering the landscape, as we've talked about, to get the level of everything below the base of the wall, and obviously repairing it. So it is a good amount of site work to fix everything with that. Downspouts, getting those to come down and actually enter a drain to be able to get the water off also. So it won't be that pulling up. So once we do fix the building, the site should drain properly away from it. Right now, as we know, when there's a rainstorm, there's basically a moat that forms around the thing. Exterior, obviously we have to fix it, but we did talk about, we asked them for some ideas of slightly modifying the colors of it, maybe update it slightly. The roof needs to stay what it is, probably a lot of that money. But consider a slightly different beige, maybe or something to just give it a slightly more modern look. Than that yellowish beige that matches the school so much. So they're going to show us some options for that as well. With the redo of the meeting rooms, it changes to exiting. This one I was actually surprised by that the actual fire exits were the back and then actually through the meeting room somehow and not the front door. Why that's important is there's steps leading up to the front door. There is no handicapped access from the sidewalk in the public way up into the building. So part of what we're going to be doing to one, get it to work correctly as fire exit is to put in a ramp that's ADA accessible that winds around next to the existing steps. So get it to blend in with the landscape low wall or some other ways of doing it to integrate it, but to properly have an ADA pathway off the public way into the building. That probably should have in the first place. What
Does
else?
that need to connect to what's on the side as well?
What's that?
Does that need to connect what's on the side then as well?
You mean around the backside there? That's all really space that's got more patio off of the existing areas. That back entrance, I think they're looking at what needs to happen there, if anything needs to be resloped or they were still looking at the drainage, that little bricked in kind of court area that's next to the back entrance, see if anything needs to be done there. That's the other entrance otherwise. Or did I miss anything else?
No, I think you hit everything.
Okay, so it's moving along nicely.
To bid.
Yep. So they're wrapping up the DD package. What I have not seen yet is their MEP drawings. She's the engineers, what she said they were finishing up. I've mentioned a couple more weeks to finish up that, and then they go ahead. We told them to keep going because they've already been authorized to do the CDs. I don't know if the architect gave us a schedule or not.
Not yet.
But
Sounds like
it's usually a month or 2 months probably from now.
So the earliest we'd be able to start it would be July.
to putting to bid.
Because if we have March for DD,
Mhm.
April, May for CD,
Yes,
out to bid in
that's
June.
probably putting it, yeah. out to
I mean,
bid in
July
June.
gets fast, yeah, out to bid in June.
Well, it's not asking permits too, so you're looking at fall.
To start.
Is that
fall
fall
before
to the board?
No,
There won't be holdups there.
it should be. Board needs to approve it once the bids come back, so we know what cost really
So
is,
July.
July,
And
yeah.
once it's awarded from its side permits, it's a 6-month problem.
Easily. Should be.
So.
Also like the December, right?
I mean, everybody on the board wants to get it done before the end of the year.
Oh, this year? No, we never said that.
That's not.
We could try.
That was the conversation
That was
in a
the wishful
meeting.
thinking.
Yeah, we thought we could. This beginning part is,
But if it's August,
to
it's
throw it
not.
out. No,
But if you did put a shovel in the ground in September,
so, something's been faster. Now, this really isn't a interior fit out. It's 4 months. It really depends on,
Well, we won't know until July.
we won't know. Yeah, the other thing is it needs new mechanical systems. There's a few things that are potentially going to slow down the process. Although the lead times for HVAC systems and panel boards is acting normal now.
But we can incentivize early completion and we can
Sure.
prioritize bids with faster
Yeah.
timelines. There's some things we can do.
Yeah, the nice part is the building's unoccupied, so you can tell just to go.
well, the other thing is you can do the outside work and the inside work.
Yeah, right.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not the case.
And if they can get the inside done, the outside, then you can start to occupy it, whatever. The work to repair the base wall is the part that's gonna take a while, and that needs to be done before you start really doing things in one stage right.
Can't do that then. June, July, August, September, that we can't really do until winter.
You could try, but yeah, there's stuff that we can control. It's gonna be a really good idea to grade the site really fast in the beginning, to clear down and get the landscape. Get the work going. Okay.
The smart thing for the order. Just because we talk about timing, I just pulled out the sheet that Jim presented to the Crow Board earlier this month. And so there were 4 projects that penciled in, it was just penciled in between now and year end 2026. So those 4 projects, 851 and 3.5, they total 5.8 million, 3.5 million, 600,000 for splash pad. That 3.5 seems to be a good number, but we don't know. No, 600,000 is a good number, barring any issues that come up, when they start digging. I mean, the biggest issue, I believe, and Mark, you've got more information, it's just when they dig. I mean, that they know these guys know how to put splash pads and, exist on grass. You gotta dig up, like that potentially when you dig, you find things that you didn't think were there.
You're building a wall around it, so.
And then the 2 projects for next year were the multi-functional sport network for 1.2 million and the parks enhancement for 500,000.
Which we had a total of 800,000.
Yeah, that's just a piece of it. So, so the answer is, in terms of, I think some of the 851 we just talked about will roll into 2026. But we'll definitely spend that this year. So anyway, so with the funding on draft form based upon a number of houses, looks like, and by the way, after we spend all that money based upon this projection, still says at the end of each year, we've got about $2 million not spent. That is a reserve.
Isn't park enhancements going on now?
Yes. Well, they bathrooms that the board.
Yeah, but
Yeah, we have-
no, ours is it gets a little blurry, my view is, our stuff was new stuff as opposed to
Yeah.
Right,
stuff. Right now, it's expensive stuff that would go onto the operating, the capital would be a new pavilion, you know, the new bathrooms at East Lawn, field, et cetera. All those new stuff,
But to me, that's the next RFP, we're trying to put that together, be able to get those at least in a design phase also.
and
So we're gonna go.
And if you believe, which I think we should assume, that there's no, other than 851 splash pad, there's not gonna be an appetite to spend any other money this year, that you would, you know, issue the RFP that we just talked about for, sports courts, you know, mid-year, right? Mid-year, you got firm things in, you know, you do the engineering, and you know, by third or fourth quarter, you say, okay, I got this, this is the guy, this is the price. And then people can look at it and say, okay, and we can start next year, now that we have it. You know, the issue is the longer you wait, the cost structure rise, right? We gotta balance that.
Well, isn't there a design RFP?
Yeah. That's what he said first.
Yeah.
Design.
Right, but that was the design, and you could go get the.
And depending on 851 may slide out some design fees forward to get these things designed. So then when it's ready to be approved for construction, it is.
can we afford all these things next year?
Yeah, well, depending on house sales.
Sure.
So far, house sales.
Well, Everything's on sale.
Yeah. So, well, there's 164, I believe, condos to residences and townhomes. A lot of things. Yeah, they are. And then phase two for Island Village is coming. So, I mean, how many of those, so. This
But
year.
again, what's important for us is we've got to demonstrate splash pad, that we have a plan, we have a vision, we've got community support. Now we have to go prove we can execute, because we can't prove we execute, it's gonna be very hard next time to go in.
The other thing we don't have control over is what. So, like, the pool heating, which we're gonna talk about, could become a very big issue because especially with swim teams who are complaining like crazy. Or just having two pools with heaters in them, so.
Okay, well, that's next topic.
Yes.
So, just out of curiosity, when you say swim teams, it's the K through 8 in the high school?
No, there's.
It's the Celebration Cycling.
Cycling.
Is the swim team that is a partner program, but the high school also uses Lakeside for some of their swim meets.
And the cyclone, I'm sorry,
Our partner program,
okay.
A private.
private.
Their friends are.
Right.
And they're quite local.
And then you also have the K-8 and the Island Village Elementary School that utilize the pools for K-8 uses Lakeside, Island Village uses Island Pool for swim lessons for the younger kids.
Yes. I've seen that. Okay, all right, so.
Well, yeah, I had requested to get quotes for the other pools, and Lauren got those. Do you want to go through them?
Sure.
Now, the company that they went to, their specialty is geothermal heating. Now, there's other options, obviously, like a heat pump and gas heaters. So Island Village being the only one with natural gas, I think a gas heater type of
Is Lakeside choosing?
heater would work a lot better and cost less than geothermal.
Trying to do it via heat.
Oh, yeah.
About the, so that's going to start propane.
I think we just switched.
I would believe it's natural gas, but you can have a gas that does use
It's
propane.
still just a fortune.
Eric was on the board the first, when they put them in the first time.
Okay, so what the thought to do, pick a pool, what would be the?
Village.
Island Village, just because of its, I don't think Island Village is a good example. Let's go with North Village.
Okay,
Because Island Village gallon is large, but it's shallow. So they're recommending geothermal heat pumps based on gallon and not necessarily the shallowness of it. We are getting quotes for natural gas heating of Island Village, and trying to figure out the difference in cost of just annual run.
But again, apologies. Ignorance. Island Village, that pool, that's used by swim teams, there's no lanes.
No,
No, that-
No,
the only two that are used by swim teams,
Yeah.
well, Lakeside is the main one. They only use Spring Park when Lakeside is busy.
Okay.
But yeah, we're not talking about heating Lakeside. That's
but the other side of it,
But one thing.
Well,
the Island Village pool is used by the K through school that's across. Yeah, but again, that's only 4 feet deep. So even if it gets down to 65 degrees, we could have 5 or 6 people in that pool. Because it's only 4 feet deep, and if the sun's out, it warms it up.
So 115 is for which,
This is for North Philly.
so that's a typical number.
that's just the installed equipment, and how about,
That's the well, the if they need to dig a well, that's the well or 2 wells in some cases, and then the equipment, material, labor.
and what's the monthly operating cost then, once you do that?
So gas heating versus Symbiont heating. So, yeah,
That's all cost per year, but that's saved, well, what's the cost?
this is your projected cost of operation.
Just the propane will be cylinders or it will natural gas that come from the.
So these are geothermal. The only one that's pipe that could potentially have gas is Island Village, but that pool is not piped for natural gas heating. So you would have to do some additional retrofitting on the Island Village pool to accommodate the gas heating. There's no gas lines near the other pools.
Makes sense. I'm having a lot of problems with HOA. Who has propane, but in cylinders, we like a hostage in their hands, like.
So Island Village has natural gas piped out to that whole community, and most of your appliances are natural gas appliances, aren't they yet?
Yes.
That was that.
And Biden can't take them away anymore.
If we were to tap into that, then that would be an option, but we're waiting to get bids back to see what that cost is. And
Yeah, and I think
operating cost.
they need to go look at that just to see exactly.
Christian had at least one company coming out to walk it with him to look and see what needs to be done.
Yeah. Really slow. The Symbiont, you're saying that's geothermal?
Yes,
Okay.
so 115 to 150 is.
So what's the partner program? Like they pay like
They pay-
20%?
They pay, I think they're the 20% per participant. They might be.
It's very welcome.
Yeah,
And what age are they, is that? They're these high school kids? Or-
The cyclones, no, it's multiple age ranges.
I think it's important to, I may have a controversial opinion on this. I think it's important to look at that now. But what's the number? Is that less than 20,000 a year or is it like $6,000 a year? Because I feel like we make a lot of decisions for partner programs and then we make $30.
Well, I mean, but let's be honest, this partner program doesn't use any other pools other than Lakeside, and they moved to Spring Park if Lakeside has something else in it. So they're not using Island Village, North Village, East Village, Spring Lake. And the reason they were upset recently is because the heaters were down at both pools at the same time, which is a rarity.
And I think the pool should be heated.
Yes,
I think it should be based on resident need, not partner program.
they use both pools.
The blue room.
well, could you pull up like what did they pay last year or something?
It's not broken up, no.
We can get that eventually.
But yeah, I can email it out to everybody.
And more
Yes.
general, if you're swimming, because I know I swim almost year round to Lakeside, but is it November, December, January, February, you don't swim? I mean, after 12 months, how many months is it? That you really need on your job?
It's,
Yeah.
you I mean, what the temperature is gonna be. I mean,
Yeah.
Like I say, it's, the Island Village pool's only 4 feet deep, so if it gets to be 70 degrees, even though it started at 40, by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, if the sun is out, there's gonna be people in that pool.
But does that pool not get used 5 months a year because it's too cold?
It has been used every month, just over the last few weeks when it's been really cool. Every day I went to the gym, there were kids and adults in the pool. Now, it was cold. The water was cold, but it's 4 feet deep and
Okay, so if,
All of Disney pools are heated,
Sure.
right? I guess so.
In my.
I mean, again,
Yeah.
We're talking about 700,000.
Yeah,
yeah.
so,
I mean, the hot item was because the two pools that have heaters both went down at the same time.
let's assume that they were both working.
Yeah, so here's the high end for Island Village, and that's just big on the gallon.
All right, so
Well, the Artisan Park is heated, plus a saltwater pool.
I think nobody else could use them.
Right,
So,
what we don't know, what we don't have a ballpark idea of the cost. What I don't think we have enough data on is celebration residents and then partner programs. How much, like when we did all of our surveys, we got to see how many people prioritized, how many people,
what if we ask, like, what do you use, right?
that we didn't
I
have.
think pools, pools on there?
Well, we didn't ask. If we did.
yeah, I think we can end this discussion personally, because I mean, until we get more information, on some of the alternative ways of heating these pools, that's what we really need.
In addition to these two ways, there's other ways to heat pools.
Again, there's heat pump,
this is only geothermal.
that's why,
This is only geothermal.
and
So, but you did have heat pump at these two larger pools previously, and they made the decision to switch to geothermal because the operating cost of it is drastically lower than the heat pump cost.
okay.
But there's a number, 7.2 years, what's your break even versus upfront investment versus operating?
Well, there's also warranty differences.
Warranty difference.
Yeah,
So you would know those numbers. Once you know those numbers, you could then know, say, okay, now we know those numbers, then it's X. And now you want to spend $750,000 a year.
right. And how many pools do we have to really heat every pool? Or do we have to add one or two? And that would be enough for those 2 to 3 months.
Well, because you would look at it and say, there's one behind us, and then there's one downtown, so would you just do North Village or Island Village and say, okay, that's it?
Or we're going to say we'll do one a year.
Isn't East Village all? I think it's pretty short.
But I mean, but let's get more
Let's
numbers.
go get more numbers, and when we get more numbers, we'll come back to this.
Yeah.
We'll come back to it, saying how significant the need is versus then redeploying of this capital from one of these other projects, because it's not incremental, not so
Yep.
much.
And we've already engaged Mattamy in conversations about the potential of, and this is not a guarantee or any commitment from them about a potential conversation between CROA and Mattamy splitting the cost of heating the phase 2 pool. So,
So much they told them, heated,
We
they
did,
want to build.
we did. They didn't list any.
we did.
We gave a whole bunch of lists of things that like, here's what you should do, here's what we'd like you to do. They didn't.
Well, but then.
Yeah.
You can't build homes here.
Well.
But that's.
I understand.
But
Yeah,
again, the apartments built, the amenity center,
Yes.
using Mattamy didn't do it. So now that they're putting in another amenity center in phase 2, they're gonna do it as cheaply as they possibly can, unless there's pressure on Grow to do something different.
Just out of curiosity, what time are we doing? Who pays for that?
Oh, on the bridge,
Every day you're compensated.
I sent it into CCDD, that if anyone else, where else, Celebration Boulevard, when the lights were out, they'd probably fix them relatively quick. And they came back and said, we've gone back to Mattamy and Mattamy is now gonna have to fix those lights. So even though CCDD owns that area, they did go back to Mattamy and they're fixing, they're fixing it.
Okay. All right, next topic, last two topics. Welcome. Is parks enhancements and Founders Park Armed Services Memorial. Let's start with the Founders Park Armed Services Memorial. I think that's you would know. Yeah.
Yeah. So on January 30th, I met with Jack McLaughlin, who is a veteran and also on the board of CCDD, and Sal Negro, who's also a veteran. Can you do those pictures? Just, I don't know if you're all familiar with Founders Park.
Yeah.
So the first thing I suggested, because they want to get the Space Force medallion up there, was
Today.
the Veterans of Celebration, Veterans Committee.
Yeah.
So I suggested we get one and we just put it right there in the middle where the guy's talking.
Yeah.
They said absolutely not.
That's fine. Okay.
So that was the cheapest. That would be the easiest thing to do.
Who said no? The veterans?
Yes.
Okay.
And how many members are in the Veterans Group, just out of curiosity?
I did. Yeah. Now, if you look at how close the flagpole is to those things that where they have it,
No.
there's no room. And so when the Boy Scouts come and they have to get the skinniest Boy Scouts to come in and do.
And the good work responds to those, it's all geometrically designed.
Yeah.
You can't just stick something somewhere.
Right, right. And I suggested, well, maybe could we put one in a different spot
Okay.
for this, and they said,
Okay.
so we had that discussion. We talked for about an hour. That's just going back and forth on different things.
Oh.
So what the kind of conclusion is they would like to take those out, take them out and put in 2 4.5 to 5 foot walls that they could then put the,
When did we put these in?
that was put in.
29 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They wanted all those, that whole thing was done. They were-
Yeah. So this is a big change that we're talking, and like I said to them, we can talk about it. We can get quotes to see what it's going to be. They were going to go back to the person who was originally the manager of Celebration that was involved in getting this done. And I've seen a YouTube where a guy came in and did all this and said, wow, this has got to be the cheapest Founders Park anywhere. So anyway, this makes it look really good because it's really clean. They don't actually look like that.
Like that.
So, okay, so, fine.
So I just wanted to give an update as to, so if you look, I mean, where he's talking, you would have one wall going one way and one coming the other.
And if it wasn't for Space Force, would they want to make changes, or just because of Space Force?
Just because of Space Force, because that's an added, and they don't feel they should omit that because it now has, I don't know, 20,000 members, something like that.
So they want a new thing, but they don't want it on the one logical place to put it that's already there.
Right, they would much rather take those out to open up where the flagpole is.
How much money are they interested in contributing to this project?
I mentioned that. I said, we'll get a quote, and if it's crazy, then it's probably not gonna happen. I said, and we'll have to look at other alternatives.
No, Dennis, you sent a note on this, I believe.
Well, and this is a different issue altogether, and that went out now, more philosophical and practical. This park was designed based on the idea of one Boy Scout, basically, who died before he was done, but he designed it. It was designed as a total unit by him and the people who worked with him, and it was funded by money from the Boy Scouts and other groups that raised the money, not by COLA and not by the Celebration
Yep.
veterans.
Right.
And I have a bad feeling about how much you're messing up the design that's been there forever. That's pretty cool.
Okay.
And another thing, and this has become political, and I'll just say it. There's only, as far as I know, been 6 for veterans memorials that included the Space Force yet in the country. Partly because there's some, it's hard to find a veteran of the Space Force yet. And one of the problems is that there's still a little bit of bad feeling about where the Space Force came from, because they were around as a group well before the Space Force started. They were part of the Air Force.
They still technically,
They're what? They're still one of the 6 chief of staffs, but if you look at the USC code, they list 5,
that's correct.
just 5
There's 5.
forces. And they don't include the Space Force, and the Air Force still does the recruitment and basic training. Those are all philosophically issues.
No,
So I talked to a lot of veterans, not a lot, but
Yeah.
friends of mine are veterans. They don't like the idea of messing up the memorial, quite honestly.
So would they be against if there was another one of those put in for the Space Force and then obviously they can't.
Design is really, the design is around the 5-star pad. And anything we do would require messing that whole thing.
No, I'm saying if you put one over here, like,
All by itself?
yeah. I mean, that's,
There's probably regulated things that you can and can't do when you're talking about a memorial. And Mark's the only one who believes as an architect that would have the knowledge to say, how are we going to lay this out in the most respectful way to code and all these other things. So I think it's not right for us to try and design anything, and certainly better to have the closest to it. But if they want something, and this isn't it, I don't think we're going to put a wall here. I think you need somebody who's responsible enough for design that is appropriate to recognize all 6, if that's the way we go. And that's probably, I'm sure there are more code or other things that you've got to adhere to.
But-
When it comes to the service.
There,
There's what?
there's 5 pillars there.
Yes, five.
Yes.
But
And I'm not gonna get, I'm gonna get the Marines irritated at me, but one of the 5 is US Navy Marine Corps. That's it.
Yeah.
So, not to say that, but somebody to step up and say, I'm a Space Corps veteran and I deserve recognition because there's nothing.
the first,
so.
that's why
The podium.
the,
The
not
podium.
the.
Or
Oh,
there's 5 one. No, that's the podium is separate.
It's separate.
What, 5 columns or whatever they see there.
Yeah.
Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, and Navy Marines. Got many Marines here, I'm sorry, but thank you. Still the Marines are still part of the Navy, no matter what you think, but they get.
couldn't you just get like a DOD plaque?
I think of recommendations.
Well, I want to say, so because I unfortunately was thinking that they were against putting anything on the post.
Yes.
Yes. The reason it's that.
They want.
This my personal opinion is that I find it different between people that are combat veterans. Blah, 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 stop it.
As we have the veterans of the Celebration Veterans make this decision.
So I'm gonna recommend that we step aside. Okay, we've got some major projects. This is a political thing, let veterans, if they want to work pro, have that discussion, and that we've looked at it, we've discussed it, and we withdraw, this is not a strategic project, and therefore, we're not gonna include it in our scope going forward, and because otherwise we can have discussions like this at every meeting, and we can bring the veterans groups in, the architects come in, and you know what? We got a lot of part-time people trying to do some big projects here, and I don't wanna add another one.
My actual comment, besides what I did say, that is my personal opinion, is that I didn't know about Boy Scout part of that. That tells me it shouldn't be touched.
Yeah.
That this was something that was done totally, it should be respected for what it is and how it's done.
Yeah.
To me, this should not change.
And I, that'd be objection.
Yes, yeah,
We can get
yes.
a second.
So, any discussion? All in favor?
We can abstain just because.
And we want to,
That's.
do you want to address the restroom issue and the shed, is that, are we with that one too?
Okay, well, no, that it's not on the agenda here. Let's do parks and then let's get, because that's a similar, but it's also a very important project. But so let's talk about parks and enhancement, which we discussed is not gonna be this year, right? It's could be later, but we need to start thinking through of the list. So I don't,
Yeah, well, I've got the list, and all I'd say is let's put it off to the next meeting because with everything else going on. I mean, I want to be able to put for each place exactly what we have in the plan.
Yeah.
And that way we can look at it and go around and say, okay, what would be our priorities? Which is the most important, especially with the bathroom projects going on right now. I think we can just table this for.
so just as a reminder, right, we had about 10+ projects. North Village, playgrounds, meeting rooms, East Lawn Field, pools, Jones Rooms, reimagined, Artisan Park, new playground, amphitheater, new bathrooms, playground, new bathrooms. So there was a lot of those, right, that would take place over the next 2 to 3 years. So you'll take that.
Yeah.
Describe them a little bit more.
Yeah.
Then have a discussion on priorities and then take that first group and say, okay, this is our priority. Now let's go out and do some more work. Let's go out and exactly, and then start the process.
Yeah, and part of that, we're always gonna have to monitor if something is breaking down, restarts leaking or whatever, that we have on the list that the board then goes ahead and approves.
Yeah.
So,
And again, what's happens with the parks, which gets complicated, slightly complicated, is we have we need to paint the bathroom. We need to build the bathroom at a field, right? You know, and that's maintenance, and we kind of said early on, we don't want to be involved in the maintenance. Okay, there's great manners and others that are doing maintenance. We want to do the additions or the enhancements. And that's, but if you're going to spend $75,000 maintaining or doing something to something, it may impact any building you want to invest close by when you just put that money there. So they're related, but that our focus should be on the enhancement in addition.
agree.
Okay. So it's not on the agenda, but let's, because I don't know how to deal with the last meeting. We talked about, and maybe it's in addition to, it's on the list of parks enhancements. It's not a park, but it's an enhancement to the maintenance shed out. We've been talking about every meetings about, you go into Artisan Park on the right. Lawrence team, doesn't have a bathroom. They now have a portage on it, right? Hasn't been updated in 30 years, and we saw a picture of it. It's,
They haven't had a bathroom for 25 years, 30 years either.
yeah, so I have a bathroom, but there's water going back there, so it's not, so it's,
They're sanitary.
There's this tree right now.
Potable water, and
yeah.
there's a
Should be
thing.
sanitary. bathroom.
Yeah. But anyway, in any case, we need to look at that, right? And it gets a little complicated because the beneficiaries of that, it's not like 500 people that would take advantage of the amphitheater, but it is an infrastructure improvement in the town that, makes it run, right? And it's Or, it was,
What's the closest, is this the closest
This is the closest,
facility?
because they can't use Artisan.
well,
It's also where they take their breaks, they do their team meetings. No, they're-
Operating facility for.
Yeah,
We've got a very similar
let's pull the picture up.
I don't have it.
Okay.
property and it depends on what the utilities are gonna cost.
Well, we got bathroom and it just kind of fit me up with this thought. It looks.
I think the renovation to make it a comfortable atmosphere for the employees is probably fair because it's 25 years old, 30 years old. But I think for me, it would depend on cost of utilities.
Well, is it even, it's like a bed.
Yeah,
it's
it's the city.
It's good, and, okay, and again, the hard. Okay, so for 30 people work there, people go in there,
There are 15 people that work in it.
50, so. You gotta be a little hard, you spend $200,000. If that's how much it costs, what's the amount, $1,000 short, 50,000, this is part of it.
Because 851 is.
No, that's where the maintenance team and the porters work out of. That's where their equipment is. Stated.
And then go in, out of there. All day long, the golf course.
There's no question they go in and they also work there.
Yeah, and it's a pilot, so it's a small group of people, but it's the people who are coming in place.
Well, it is true, man.
Yeah.
True.
Can we buy one of those portable buildings that everybody's doing on Amazon and just for $10,000 build one of those and put a bathroom in it?
Yeah.
There's gotta be something between $100
We get a.
and
there is. Actually, that'd be kind of cool.
It's if there's anything still available.
Yeah, there's things.
Oh, that's all it is.
something like that. No, I know.
Well, has there been any women on the maintenance team?
There are now, there's 2 porters. That's what made the porta potty an urgent issue.
Yeah.
The guys were just going in the bushes.
Which is also an urgent issue.
Yes. But you can't just head in.
So you got the centralized, community side, and then you interview the guys, and that's where you look out.
And pee over there.
Don't drink too much water.
Yeah, so, okay, so let Jim, if you could. Put that, it will treat that no differently than, putting new bathrooms in the amphitheater. We may prioritize it, but if
The maintenance shed.
Just go.
It's essentially. It really is just 2 bathrooms left in the wall. So it can be.
Doesn't need- And it's not visible to anyone. So this doesn't have to be a pretty,
Right, doesn't have to be, but it's a road landscape.
but the bathrooms, we just talking about bathrooms, we're talking about bathrooms and the doing something on the inside.
Could even do the building, but.
Okay, so just match it.
Yeah, we'll just build bathrooms and on the utility side,
Okay.
that area is lower and that's the part about getting the sanitary, so if it was put in a spot where you can slope to get to the center and move that. It might be.
Where is it from here?
It's just,
It's right before you get to Bridge Shores.
Yeah.
It's.
It'd be, I think I need to take them off. Because we've been doing this for 30 years and,
So,
why would we run it for 30 years like that? We stuck with 2 people for 30. Like, what's the justification? Because it's been there for 30 years.
and
Well, there's been an increase in use because when it was first built, there wasn't even hardly anything else. So more people are doing more things down there now, but it's out of, I understand the need.
You buy a new cargo, Ned. So it's gonna be cheaper than drive down here and have that.
well, they're all mostly done.
Yeah, they share one of the trucks with the,
It'll.
Sure.
Right, and what if it's 200?
Because it's.
Well, there's already water and sewer connection.
Is there sewer, there's water,
Or it's, yeah,
the sewer,
I'm sort of thinking there.
oh,
There is a thing in there.
All right.
okay, well, then,
oh,
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
okay.
Might be true.
It might be true, yeah.
You got a good point there.
okay. All right, so next month's meeting, we will circle back and take the initial look at the, park enhancement. Next month, we'll report back that we, hopefully sign a contract. What the open issues are on the contract with Splash Pad. We'll continue to work, in targeting, next 90+ days to have the RFP completed to go out. But again, the appetite of somebody to, I think, back to the point that I think you were making is, it's probably both Splash Pad. We now about 6, 7, 8 months worth of out sale. And then before we go back in and say, okay, now I want,
Right, it's just the funds to do design work.
yes, I work fine.
Okay, that's the only clarification. Okay. That's why to me, the RFP should go out as soon as it can.
I need to have a question. As I understand it, the clock may actually start tomorrow on the splash pad. If it's approved by the.
Yes,
So maybe there'll be some timeline down the road. on
Yes.
that. But as far as the town hall, there's no timeline at all that I hear.
Well, it's run.
Concrete.
but there's not what you would, some of us would be used to seeing, which is a detailed agreed to dates.
Yeah.
Between you and a contractor. There's no contract. Between now and Riverton.
Right.
Well, like Derek said, there's hardly any pushback from the board.
There will be none on town.
But you don't have the concrete on the dates yet.
No, so,
But we're pushing the architect to get this.
yeah.
We're at Andy's yet?
They're finishing up DD. It's further on. Pretty far along. They did answer your question on how they really need to finish drawings, but we didn't say anything to slow them down. I told them, keep going. Yeah. I would not disagree with you. I can.
Okay. All right, and Lauren, you've got a report. I'm gonna come back in 30 or 60 days and talk about the heating quote.
Yes.
Comparisons.
Mhm.
And we made the motion that was approved that we would, no longer, we would ask that the veterans group work, with better and the pro board on, any changes to the founder's part of the service.
I will communicate that to the individuals.
What, did they ask you to bring it to us?
The board did.
The board.
Oh, the board.
Yeah.
We were asked to put a Space Force plaque. We decided to send to this group because that made the most sense.
Yes.
You've given a recommendation and now we can just
Yeah.
move forward.
And yeah, our recommendation is that,
Yeah, ping pong and that.
but that we,
Your recommendation is what?
we didn't see any, there's not enough knowledge.
That's a good point. I'm gonna make sure.
Yeah, that we didn't. Yeah, not enough scope. Not enough scope. Yeah.
That's Disney and Survivor.
Well, the individual we met with,
Yeah,
wanted to completely change Owner Park. And we, as a committee, can do that.
we didn't have the appetite here.
I think we said yes or no.
And well, did we, we said we pop, but there was no strong appetite from this committee that compelled us to want to go.
What was the wording of the?
I'm afraid that this committee has decided that we're not going to be engaged now because it is a large scale project, not placing simple flags.
The wording was, this is not a strategic grant.
If Cold War comes back and can say, you guys work with you guys and get something done, that's a different.
Well, it did, really, it's a, all strategic project.
Yes.
Okay, those are all the topics, any other? Talk about? Well, the largest fund got a mess. He left or just.
That was a couple years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
Now we were selling.
We're going to step in and get Yankee.
I'm a Mets fan.
All right, thanks, thank you.
Thank you all.